afternoon, everyone. We have with us here one of the most prestigious members in the industry and in one of the most looked around and looked forward to panel discussion. And moderating this panel, we have with us Mr. Vivek Gupta, and with him we have panel members joining us: Mr. Gurjot Bhatia from CBRE, Mr. Akshay Lakhanpal from Space Matrix, Mr. Abhishek Malhotra, and we also have Nilab Nagar. And I'm not going to waste much time taking up with the instructions, and I'm going to hand this over to Vivek to take forward this panel discussion and take his stage. Vivek, over to you.
Thank you, Rashmi. Thank you so much. And thank you for giving me such a wonderful set of people to pick their brains on. Sure. It's time for us to hold a mirror to ourselves. I think whenever there's a discussion that happens on the fraternity, I feel extremely responsible and I want to point fingers first to us, and that's why I like to hold mirror. My first and foremost thought is, are we dreaming enough? You know, as architects and people in project management, I think we are all being very, very selfish. The given objective is to finish the task in hand. We are happy if we can accomplish that, and in the manner that we ourselves have set our deadlines on, whether it is timelines or design capabilities or whatever. The idea of breakthrough technology is always driven by the fraternity itself, by the people who are involved, because all research and development that has to happen in the building industry, the way we build, the way we think, the way we innovate is dependent on us. My question is, have we done enough? If yes, then I would like to start with Gurjot and ask, what is that one single thing that you feel has been a breakthrough technology in your chosen field of work? Gurjot.
Vivek, thanks for the opening and setting the tone. And I do, broadly speaking, agree with you that overall as an industry, while I do believe that when you look at the different components of the industry and talking of the subject of technology, it has permeated some of the aspects of the industry better than others. There is definitely, I don't think there is any question about the fact that there is a lot that needs to be done and a lot that could be done. Mm-hmm. Specifically, if I were to, but I'll be brief. Obviously we would have more discussions, but specifically responding to your question about the field that I belong to, which is project management. It's very easy for me to jump into the design box or the construction box or the client shoes as well, because I have the unique ability to jump into any
of that. Yes,
do all of that, because we are doing all of that in the role that we perform, but that would be unfair. So I will probably stick to just the project management part. Mm-hmm. So if I can talk about, and you used a good phrase there, it's not just per se technology itself, but are we even thinking enough on those aspects? So I'll probably broaden my answer to the fact that what is it that people are thinking more about when it comes to project management is the pain points. So obviously you think more of the pain points. So as we have seen, and this is something when I joined this field 25 odd years ago till now, there's been a lot of work that happens on the planning aspects and the coordination aspects of the project, the piece or the work that is called project management. Because that, and also I can relate to that. Why is that so? Specifically in a country like India and the kind of real estate and construction environment that we belong to, where there are many stakeholders, more than anywhere else in the world, who come together to develop a project right from concept to handover. Planning, and with the risks that we operate in, planning a project well becomes very, very tough. So if I were to say, many people will not agree because we can do a lot of work on the planning aspects as well. But if I were to say, if there was, and you said yes, and technology per se, unfortunately, just restricted to the software aspect of it.
Right.
But if I were to pick one, I would say planning and coordination is something where there has been more work. So I think the bare bones on which one needs to build up are there. I don't. I think we have the tools and the implements. Now what we need is the intent and also the content at times, because what we are missing also in the industry is, because there is a technology is one aspect. The other is there has to be somebody, a human being somewhere in the entire chain of technology to operate technology, right? So that's another
True,
story.
true.
But these are the aspects. Apart from that, as I said, I don't want to jump into other domains, but I think there is a fair amount of focus uh, has been, and of late because of COVID, there has been more focus on the design aspect of the, as to how technology can, because buildings and projects are now more complex than they ever were. And which is a good thing, that, in our country, we're doing more complex projects. Uh, so that has necessitated the advent of technology in design more than any other part of our industry. And the third thing is, yes, there are some very, very good case studies where even in construction, in terms of the actual construction techniques, technology has taken place. For example, if you look at the logistics industry, for example, they have adopted technology because of the repetitive nature of the work that they do, for example, or even the mass housing side, or so on and so forth. But I will not go further. So these are the few top of the mind places where technology has been adopted. Of course, a lot more.
I hear you, Gurjot. What I feel is that what you've touched upon is more of technology, but the construction chain, the comprises of various other things, which is basically the tools of design, which is the construction material, and thereafter implementation. What I feel that, and what I would like to ask Abhishek, because it was very interesting to read that he's talking about design planning and economics of construction. That's what he represents at AECOM. So, Abhishek, in a shorter version, what do you think has been one breakthrough innovation that has happened in our line of work?
See, Vivek, so first of all, thank you for inviting me on this panel discussion. And just to give you a brief background, I may not be the person only sticking to design or PMC. Probably we are managing program management as well as master planning and urban design.
Right.
Now includes architecture also. So I find like all the issues which we are talking about have quite a good relevance and which need to be discussed at this point of time. When we talk about either project management or design, as the project comes to us, the three things are always taken on priority: delivery, quality, and budget. Has anybody given a thought to innovation or the technology? I don't see, like, in my career span, I've never seen this word as part of any of the contract. Like, what kind of innovation you can bring on
Exactly.
board while you are working as an intellectual or as defined consultant for the project. We always work in. I see, like, even the youngsters, they work in a very boxed approach. They have. It's very painful when you find fresh grads and coming up with a very set mind as they move on to the project. But things like how best we can deliver, taking it from design all the way to PMC. There are new tools like what we now have migrated to BIM 365 or CAD Civil, integrating with CAD. That's our like core tools of design or project management or engineering design. These kind of approaches now need to be taken to a next level. Your delivery has to be linked to innovation and technology. We have to move away from the standard boxed approach. Designers do design, engineers do engineering. You have a cost consulting team, and then you have a PMC team. One platform to begin from day one and take it through is something which I believe is must as we move ahead and we want to have some breakthrough innovation in the industry, which is coming up, which is evolving. And these things now have to be taken up, I would say, at the stage when you are actually conceptualizing a project from a client side as well as from a consultant side. The challenge with consultant is that we go by the book. This is the scope which is defined to us. deliver on the scope. The moment I suggest that I need a deviation from this, or there's a better approach to deliver on this, there is always a resistance from client side. Recent example, working on some of the very large scale healthcare projects. I've been telling client that for a healthcare project to have the right footing, the most critical part is getting the program set correctly. And the program should not be done on an Excel sheet. It has to start from the basic platform from where you can take it from concept to commissioning on the same platform. But client, it's like, no, we are not used to this thing. We work in this approach. So you follow our timelines and deliver on that. So that's where I see a little bit challenge. And yes, I think we can work towards coming on some more innovative delivery platform, which can be taken from concept to commissioning level.
Hear you, Abhishek, and I feel that even you are talking about architects or designers or planners or project management people as problem solvers. I would love to see all of us as solution providers, not as problem solvers. And that is where the issue is, because unless we start thinking as ourselves as solution providers, we will not be proactive. We will always be solving the problems that confront us. Nilab, on that note, as an architect who's doing some large scale projects, technology, all right, that has no contribution from any architect, from any construction management, or anybody in the construction food chain management. It is all coming from people who are outside our domain. What are we doing? Do you find in last 100 years any breakthrough material innovation? Have you worked with any new material? I mean, in 36 years that I have practiced, I haven't used a single new material. Don't talk to me about material for interiors or material for tiling or flooring or nothing. I'm talking about building construction. We were building with concrete, brick, cement 50 years back, 100 years back, we're still doing it. Why? Why have we not explored enough to find some new material which is for mass construction, mass consumption, and is regarded as the new age material? Your thoughts?
Yeah, so you're right. I mean, there isn't any breakthrough change in the materials, but I think the way the materials are used is where the innovation has remained in the last 100 years. Like you said, the concrete has been concrete, but the concrete one is used in a shell structure, performs and behaves in a different manner in the way it is. So ultimately, when you come back to the first principles, you will find that the materials are ultimately the same. But to take it further, it's not that we have been only building with concrete and this thing. Earlier, what used to happen 100 years ago was people used to build with wood, and the wood became concrete. And now, to some extent, we are all exploring very high in terms of composite materials and steel as a method of construction. So recently, we finished a building in 4 months, completely using steel and this thing. So while the basic materials remaining the same, I think innovation has come in the way we have used those materials to enhance and speed up both the construction as well as the delivery times. Yes, but there have been...
Nilab, Empire State Building was built in 1930 in steel. So where is the innovation? I mean, if you're building today in steel again, in 1930, we built a 102 storied high Empire State Building. So I really feel very, very sad that if we talk about building with steel as a new material, I don't think it's a new material.
Years ago, you didn't build in Teflon. The new plaza in the New York, where they built this entire new plaza in ETFE. It's not been 100 years ago. So ETFE has come about new, and you built the whole new plaza, whole new stadium. The O2, when it happened in London, when it made out of ETFE and a fabric structure, you didn't have that 100 years ago. So it is not that you don't have materials which have not come about. You have composite stone, which has come about for cladding, which you didn't have earlier. You used to have only stone and glass to some extent, which came in, let's say, 80 years ago or so, glass came in. But now you have composite materials, you have high pressure laminates, you've got lot of new materials which have come now for building skin, which has not been there.
Which is skin, basically, yes.
The skin which has happened, which breathable skins have come in. You've got those kind of things have come. This is not that material, there's been loss of material. Now they're talking about carbon fiber in construction, how to make the buildings lighter and still having the same strength. You're trying to use the steel. If you use it in the steel, when you use it in compression, when you use the entire gamut of shell structure has been to, the parametric architecture has been to use least amount of material, to use the geometry of it to make happen. So one need not get highly hassled at the fact that we have not had a material which kind of grows like biomorphic, you got nature grows, but we can also look at innovation to ensure that we use the least amount of materials to achieve what we are ultimately looking for, a human habitat.
Well said, Nilab. My basic thing still remains, and I would like to ask Akshay that what Nilab is talking about is essentially skins, which I immediately said right in the beginning. We are not talking about flooring, infill materials, and everything, but architecture or construction being the largest plunderer of natural resources. We are talking about sustainability as a buzzword, but heavy.
Let me just intervene. I will also say that over the since 2 months ago, when they introduced bamboo in the PWD schedule of rates, I would say bamboo would be the newest material which I think which has come about in this country and is long overdue to bring it into the formal construction industry.
For a building which is 2 stories high, that's it.
No. You can go up higher.
Maybe 4 stories, but we are not going to start building mass construction, affordable housing, and everything in bamboo construction. I mean, my question is, Akshay, these kind of prototypal, innovative materials, 3D printing, all of that is all right as a buzzword and to generate excitement. There has been not a single material which has been accepted for mass construction in a manner that is, there is a one world material. Concrete, brick, stone, glass is one world material. And go anywhere, any part of the world, barring the climatically suited architecture, you would call this as one world material. What is that one world material that you want to see? Do you want to see that today, because of the sustainability issues and the mass plundering of resources that is happening, would you want to see a recycled material which is acceptable, which has the same strength as concrete, and actually addresses the issue of the climatic disaster that we are doing through resource plundering?
Absolutely. I think that's a given. Anything that we're able to contribute back from a sustainability perspective would be most appreciated. I think I'll go back to your question where you were saying that has there been any disruptive technology that's come into our domain? I think we're lucky it hasn't. The day it does, probably we'll be out of jobs. But
don't say that.
I mean, honestly, I think technology has been incremental in our domain of business, primarily because of the fact that it's a very disjointed kind of overall delivery structure, right? It's not connected end to end. It's got a lot of moving parts. So I think technologies are touching domains of various delivery mechanisms, not entirely yet. And I'll give you some examples. Obviously, from a technology perspective, one form of technology, probably the one that you were talking about before we started, is the kinds which will help us do repetitive tasks faster, build efficiencies, reduce waste and stuff. So quantification, QS tools, BIM, we spoke about, flash detection, all of those are intrinsic to us. I mean, whether the clients ask for it or not, it's our responsibility to obviously bring in more efficiencies for ourselves as a business. The second aspect of the technology is what impacts our business itself, where when I'm going in front of the client, can I actually use technology as a differentiator to create an impact on the client himself or herself? And examples of those forms of technology are visualization tools, right? Whether you're talking about a 3D, or earlier we used to talk about just the 2D kind of stuff, then the 3Ds came in, then photorealistic 3Ds came in. Today we're talking about animation.
Augmented reality, all of that, yes.
I know, but those are technologies, and those are
right.
I mean, if you're thinking from your perspective, it might not be, or from our perspective, it might not be groundbreaking. But imagine a client who cannot imagine how the space would look and is committing the entire cost of the project for 9, 10, 50, 20 years without even understanding what it will look like. That's a groundbreaking technology for the end user. So from that perspective, visualization tools is something which has helped them. And then tools like, so we use a software called SaltMine. It's developed in-house, but there the need of a design, so a brokerage professional or any other professional who may not be a designer can actually go ahead, and it's like Lego. So you can actually play around with it and do up a layout in half an hour or so. So these kind of technologies are available. Now it's about how much do you actually utilize these to start delivering what you're supposed to. And the third most important part where clients play a role. So these two are intrinsic to us for our own business. How much do we adapt these technologies? I think where the client facing technologies come in, where that will impact their own business, where if these technologies are deployed, they will benefit from it. Technologies like sensors today. Now, it's a oft used word. We speak about it. Most of the clients may or may not deploy these, but the data collection, I mean, data is new oil, right? So if you're able to collect that data, so today we design everything through gut feel, right? I mean, I feel that a 10-seater works, and you may feel that an 8-seater might work or a 6-seater might work for that same. None of the client briefs that we get are scientific in nature. Everything is 10 of this, 5 of this, 12 of this. Why? There's no answer to that because I feel so, or a person or a group of people feel so. Now, if all of that was scientific, then to be able to reduce wastage, to back to your point, from a sustainability perspective, in today's time, how many people are going to use that office? How are actually they're going to use that? To what extent? What efficiency? All of these things can be drawn through technology, and these tools exist today. I think the onus is on us, as you rightly said, to figure out what is available, to go ahead and propose them, and then get the data out of it to utilize it to build better environments for our clients. I'd like to give one more example of technology that has come about, and we've developed this where we are actually so most of the offices have building management systems, lighting management systems. All of these systems exist in most of the offices, and you go and ask any client, any employee in the office, where does the system sit? How do you control it? Nobody knows. We've developed a technology which is IoT based, which actually links all of these together and then brings the power of utilization to an employee. So I can sit in this room and I can change the color of the light, the temperature control of this room itself. I think that's groundbreaking, where personalization of a space has actually come from an admin manager to the actual user of the space. I think that's groundbreaking as well.
I agree with you, Akshay, but I would want to utilize the same IoTs for even a restaurant owner, but that's not what we are talking about. We have collected here as building professionals. So these are very general technological innovations that have happened, and they are good for any industry. What I would like to know from this panel is what is so unique to our fraternity, our building industry. Gurjot, so, as you said, you are somebody who wears all the 3 hats. You are an architect who's gone on to do project management. You are also a client because you also design and build. And do you think it'll be nicer in the given circumstances when post-COVID and everything, that the building industry shifted from building on site to largely building in factories? To me, what it does, and this has come about from the whole last 10 months and different webinars and different issues, different addressals, starting with construction workers as migrant workers, their state of, they had to move out, they live in squalor, they live in, we know it that construction workers are migrant by nature. All their lives, they live on construction sites. Their living conditions are really bad. The children, so it's not just the construction worker, it's their families also who get affected. Do you think that one of the answers going forward and bringing in new innovation in building technology is to start building in factories and only assembling on the site? To me, that would mean that we can mechanize the whole process of having modules which are built in the factory and mechanize it on the site to reduce the construction workers, and you can build faster. Do you think, and what are your thoughts on that? Is that the way forward? Are we going to be able to, this is the approach to a solution provider rather than a problem solver?
The short answer to that question is yes. But what will follow is, and I will qualify why I say that, is that, and I say that very carefully. I don't want to sound just for effect. I'm not saying this just for creating an effect. I mean it. That there is no option now, whether that happens in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years, I don't know. We all have to be focused, as a fraternity to be able to do that. But the short answer is yes, we don't have a choice. We have to get there. I think besides all the issues and challenges and hardships that this last 9 months have brought to all of us and the entire industry, there's few say opportunities or silver linings that it has provided is it has given us time, and also it has pushed us to think, which we never could, because all we were doing as a industry in India for the last 25 years was construct, build, more and more square feet with all the risks and challenges, issues. I agree with you. A lot of stuff which we used to see in buildings, in terms of issues, whether it was during construction, during planning, during design, during handover, they still exist. So the question we all often ask ourselves is, so what has changed? Though I don't, Akshay said earlier, he put it well. There are many things that have happened, and I'll talk a bit about those as well. So the short answer is yes. The challenge that, and we often discuss this within our teams as well, with our clients, with our partners, with architects, consultants, etc. As a team, we say, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? The challenge that we've always been posed, and Abhishek said that earlier also, is there is a cost aspect to everything. Whenever you start something new, there is a cost aspect to it. So who will kind of bite the bullet? Who will say, okay, I'll do the first building. It's going to be, say, maybe 5%, 10% expensive. I'm just giving a random example, but it will be, maybe 5-10% faster to get there. So, or it would pave a way for something which is going to be the norm going forward, vis-a-vis, say, less dependence on labor. Labor from being, say, 20%, 25% of the overall cost of construction, the cost of labor is also not getting cheaper, especially skilled labor. And there is a huge scarcity. And at the same time, we're talking a lot about skill development. But the gap between where we want to be and where we are is huge right now. And again, that's another chapter to be discussed as far as technology is concerned.
Sorry, Gurjot, I just want to ask, where do we want to be?
So we want to be in a place where we are. See, technology. I'm still a big believer of the fact that what we are solving is a lot of the problems which technology basically is easily adapted when it fixes a problem that you have right in front of your face, right? I'll give you a quick example. Again, it is not to do with the big projects that you were talking about. It's a very small example. When this COVID thing started, our people could not be on site, to report to the client what was going on in many cases. So and they didn't have access to computers, laptops, Excel sheets. There were challenges all around, and IT people could not reach them to fix those machines as well in case they landed up in trouble. So our internal team developed an app in 48 hours. Literally, I'm not exaggerating, in 48 hours on Power Apps, where these guys could just go there, take a picture. It created a platform where the client downloaded the app as well, and everybody could see what's going on site from a quality and defect rectification perspective. So I think we are very quick and fast to adapt technology when it comes to tactical challenges that we face on a day-to-day basis, whether it's to do with design, whether it's to do with construction, etc., etc. But do we have a long-term vision? I think we do in some cases. As I said, for example, the logistics industry, or if you look at the back office industry, within the commercial office real estate environment as well. If you look at the buildings that a back office customer demands, it's pretty much a cookie cutter. I'm saying in a positive way. Whether it's the outside of the building, the skin of the building, they're looking at efficiency. They're not looking at a bespoke kind of a building, which is a signature, headquarter type of a vision that it gives. They just need efficiency. They want it done fast, and so on and so forth. So I think going forward, there will be a big part of this industry where and I liked what you said at the beginning. I think we had not started, it was just an opening one, where I think some part of the industry will become like our the automobile industry or actually the manufacturing industry. Some part of construction will, and that is where technology will see its footprint faster. And there'll be another part which will be the bespoke part when I'm constructing my own house. Yes, I'll use some technology, but then it's not a cookie cutter approach. But standardization, processes coming in, whether it's to do with construction, whether it's to do with design, whether it's to do with approvals, etc. That is where technology will play an important role first and foremost, and then I think it will permeate the other parts of the overall industry. But the short answer is yes. I don't think we have anywhere else to go but make sure that and our reliance is going to only grow on this as we go forward.
So Gurjot is seeing technology as the biggest enabler, but the architect in me wants more. Nilam, help me.
No, yeah, what you're saying is right, but see, my thinking is like this: that there needs to be a high dissemination of knowledge. See, we have the platforms today, we have the YouTube, we have these things where a person can learn and see how the products are installed, how the things are happening. But like Ujjot said, there is such a shortage of skilled people. Then, to me, I think I would try to use technology to disseminate that knowledge to a fair large amount of people. Why would it not be bring all the labor force into a room, show them videos of how things are done and how things should be done, and then send them out to site? When you have a concrete pour happening, the large majors have a very strict points. They need to have tick mark all the 24 points before a pour is happened in a concrete.
But Nilam, what I mean, sorry to cut you, but what I mean, I think we are all going in the same direction. What I mean is, instead of pouring concrete, why are you not thinking of pouring some molten glass, some other material? We've been pouring concrete for 100 years. My question is, when we're talking about sustainability, we're talking about the debris that comes from the building. Why are we not doing serious R&D to make a new construction material out of the construction debris? Why can't we reinforce that new material and make it one world material?
We have been experimenting for a long time. If you don't know, even in my third year, when we had that whole idea of building, what was it called, building sites, which there were some 24 building centers to be built all across India, where they were experimenting with waste material and everything else. And that whole idea that CBRE started, that they say, okay, we will translate this into, bring it into mainstream industry. The thing is that a lot of research is happening in the academia and the industry. After we have finished learning, when we come into the industry, we seem to have forgotten what we have learned, what we did hands-on at that point. And then we forget it and we come back to the regular thing. Why Auroville did funicular shells with just gunny bags and this thing. How long? And if you go to Auroville, you'll find a fair amount of research happening and people are actually building in the way how they want to live. So it's not that.
Why are they not building in Bombay like that? That's why I'm saying it's prototypal architecture, but that is not mass architecture. It's very, that's what Auroville is known for.
Make it happen in a large scale. It is not, they are doing it in this thing. They don't have the resources. All of us architects here in the mainstream architecture have the kind of resources and the reach to make that happen here. So it's not that it is not happening. It is for us to make it happen.
Have you built in any other material?
We have built in mud.
Right. So that's exactly what I'm saying. How much percentage of your projects have been built in mud? Question is, again, what we are seeking as a fraternity is that breakthrough innovation. And that breakthrough innovation is the answer that is what the discussion should be about. It is, to me, I'm still an unsatiated, unsatisfied moderator, because what I'm looking for is somebody to say that I'm ready to spend my time and bandwidth in finding a breakthrough technology. And who better than the panel right now to insist that I am going to start building in a certain manner, way of doing construction henceforth. If you're saying that COVID has been a little break for all of us to reinvent ourselves, like we started working from home, which was new, and I think we've adapted to that, and various other things. Is there anybody who's willing to throw the hat in the ring and say, I take the onus, I will henceforth build in a certain manner? Abhishek, Akshay, both of you, please take it up.
Vivek, you can't say that all of us will start picking it up like that. It is a matter of fact that there are lots of aspects of it, and we are all of us are on a daily basis innovating to make sure that we are faster, efficient, and more frugal in our way we build. So it is just not that we have to keep always bringing a new material to start building it. If you build something in a better, faster manner, and you can use the resources correctly, I think that's also itself a great innovation which will help the
Sure,
world.
sure. It is. It is. My thing as architects and builders is about the material. If technology, all right. You know, whatever Varun has been talking about, the BIM, the ARs, the VRs, and everything are all technology. What I'm saying is, please understand, it's not indictment on the profession. It's just a thing that it's an external resource that we are deploying into the building industry, which could be deployed in, you know, sometimes what Gurjot is saying, a simple thing, as simple as, instead of looking at the logistics and the development that is happening in logistics, if you have a shorter supply chain, that will help. Why go for material? Why order from China and Italy? Have a short supply chain which doesn't even involve logistics. So that kind of an answer. So what I am talking about purely is that within the industry, something that comes out of the industry as a contribution to the society, because building after farming is the largest profession. I think it's the largest workforce after farming is in construction. So by doing anything for our own industry, I think we are changing the lives of the entire population. So that's the question.
I agree to your point that yes, we have to start thinking in terms of commercially making it possible to use these innovative materials. But this word commercial has got a lot of meaning in all the discussions. We've been using this word recycling, which is quite popular and it's being kind of taken to the next stage. But how economical is recycling is what makes a difference. Definitely, there has been a lot of. I somehow don't agree that there's been no innovation happening in this field. There has been, and you mentioned that the buzzword 3D printing. That's not just a buzzword. It's actually the next level of technology which is going to change the entire construction world, which I firmly believe. India probably is not practicing 3D right now, but it's been happening. It's being practiced in a major way in West and also in China. In UK, we are doing a revitalization of an old tube. It's the metro network, where the entire system has to be reworked. So the girders in which the entire system was kind of prehistoric, I would say, colonial time steel girder systems which were being installed, and the entire tube systems was supported on that. So the entire fabrication was being done on a 3D printing module with all the polymers and stuff which goes in manufacturing that system, which actually was done in 1930s and 40s, which was the base for the network. So it's happening. It's the only thing is that how commercially we can make it viable. Next thing which you talked about, moving construction off-site. That's also something which I believe is not happening. It's happening. I am doing around 2,500 dwelling units, which are being done in a precast yard. So the entire high-rise apartment of G plus 10 stories being done as a precast construction technology. So these things are happening, but definitely I agree that it's being done in steel and concrete. Even if we are talking about the prefab, it's making a lot of commercial sense to the developer that he's getting it prefab. Probably we have a stricter quality control and we have less of manpower. But again, the thing which was talked about is the labor on site equipped or taught enough to use the technology. Still, you find those failures which are happening. Though the whole basis for using a precast technology for this high-rise apartment was to ensure that the buildings are more weatherproof because they are done in an area which is more coastal and sea wind prone area. Just to avoid all those things, this precast was being used, but then precast requires altogether a skill set for getting it executed on site. So those things need to be mashed together once we talk about innovation and knowledge. So once you have that together, I think we see a lot of innovation happening and it's going to move ahead. But
I think it's also Abhishek, just to add to your point, it's also a factor of scale, right? So if you're building 100,000 square feet, how will you bring in economies of scale of doing prefab versus if you're doing maybe a 10 million square feet? So again, going back to the logistics example, this particular plant that I'm talking about, they were like one of the early movers to adapt on, it was like on-site, but kind of prefab construction that they did for their building on-site, and then just erected those panels on the very same site. They had the luxury, it was like a 60, 70 acre large site, so they had a lot of space. But they could not have done it. It would not have made sense to do it when they were doing their first box. It was only when they knew that they were going to do 5 boxes or 6 boxes, totaling to about 4 or 5 million square feet, and did the cost benefit analysis. And even earlier, and that also even only made sense once they said we're going to have a yard inside. If they wanted to do it offsite and then transport it, perhaps the cost, etc., would not have made sense. It was only when they did that maths that we found that it's going to make sense. So I think as a overall, the place we are as a country overall, I'm trying to generalize a topic which is very difficult to generalize, but the fact is that as we do more, as we construct more, economy of scale, and technology is getting cheaper as well, by the way, right? If you look at, apps are free now. You have software as a service. You don't need to buy software per user, paying a few $100s for every month of usage. I mean, things are getting free now. There is a lot of adoption that has happened. But of course, it's all happening at the same time. Maybe when we look back 10 years from now, we will see things which were not there today have become a norm now, in context of many things that we are discussing.
Yeah, well, that is true. Same thing happened with Maiwan. When Maiwan first came in, people were so resistant to that. And now the last building which is in Faridabad, the client was so particular that even the plumbing lines on that wall were designed and detailed even before the first panel came on site. So first they were saying who will do it, who will not do it. And then once it starts, I think we are quite flexible to adapt new technologies. So I think what you're saying is right. People will at some point start changing. Precast will happen. They're building about 50,000 houses here in Precast. So
Nilab, as industry leaders, this mixed land use building that you're building in Gurgaon, which you are now building in steel after having built millions of square feet, not in steel and in concrete, and the advantages. And steel is one of the most recyclable material. I mean, to the last, you can again, I mean, it could be 100-year-old, it could be 500-year-old. You can take that steel, you can melt it again, and it can, in fact, to the best of my knowledge, you can add some additives and it can become stronger and stronger. It is this kind of an innovative approach. The benefits of it. Why, as architects, as fraternity people, we or Gurjot or Abhishek or Akshay have not been doing this? We like somewhere there is the tinge of what Gurjot said, cost benefit analysis. Is everything always about cost? People are willing to pay top dollar if they get a good product. Look at the cars. The innovation that has happened in the automotive industry is unbeatable. The first car was produced, 100 years back or whatever? I mean, don't get me literally so about 100 years back. Look at from where to where we have come. I am wanting us to want to fly. Like one day somebody thought humans can fly. Why are we so sedate as a fraternity? Why you, Akshay, Gurjot, Abhishek, don't think of flying? Why can't we think out of the box? Please, Akshay, any thoughts coming from you, Akshay?
Yeah, so now if I were to draw this parallel in the industry that we operate in, which is interiors, so obviously it is possible to do 70% of the overall interiors with recycled products, right? And products are available. I think the industry is probably far more mature than building construction industry, and hence those are available. Now, coming back to the question of cost, and I think this is as a fraternity, probably this is the most appropriate time for introducing thoughts like these, is because the fact that the industry is under severe pressure. I mean, all of us included, building material suppliers, contractors, everybody is under stress at the moment. And hence you can get a better bang for the buck in the sense that you may get the same product probably 10% cheaper in today's times, right? Maybe for another 6 months to a year or probably longer. And I think as industry, as part of the industry, it's our job to educate our clients to say that let's not take that 10% reduction. Can we invest that 10%? We already budgeted for it. Can we invest that 10% back into the project from innovation perspective, from recycled products perspective? And I think this is the right time where the clients will not invest higher than what they would have budgeted for, and we can actually go ahead and introduce a lot of innovation in the building and construction.
I hear you. I hear you. Nilab, do you want to add to that?
No, it's what you're saying is right. I mean, that is the costs have come down, but even though costs have come down, we still have huge challenges when it comes to let's first understand what you are talking about. Innovation and everything else is in a new construction, new build, and where you have to, let's say, address the challenges of housing and habitat for a large mass of people. So you are thinking of what material could habitat or make people stay in that kind of a thing. It's not that people are not staying at certain places. It's just that they want to stay in a different kind of a building and this thing. So that's where the whole of this discussion, I find that we are trying to make that humongous amount of houses or buildings with a certain amount of material and innovation to kind of address that large need of habitat. But you must understand there is a fair amount, almost equal amount of work which is happening in renovation industry. It's happening in your day-to-day when you renovate your homes, when you are, out of the total population, there's a whole lot of people who are making their houses, they're making a little bit of things. When you say innovation or technology can it affect the last mile? Can it affect the housewife who's getting the things done at home? Can you make sure that the technology reaches that home at that point of time? We didn't believe it earlier when we didn't have mobiles. Now with mobiles and technology, we have information at the doorstep, at your hands. So my thinking would be that if we can kind of generate and make sure that this entire industry tends to deliver the way we've got the e-tailers happening and deliver it and make sure that it gets, even after you get it, like the way IKEA works or where you can do it yourself, things like that. Same thing, why can it not grow beyond furniture or beyond something else to be able to a person to build on his own? Why is it not? Today, for example, I was giving an example of what happened day before yesterday. I wanted to create a partition in, let's say, cement boards. Now the question is that traditional Kadia does work on brickwork and the carpenter does work in wood. Now here is a material which is cement and board. Now they're trying to decide whether Kadia will do it or this thing. So when you ask Kadia, he's very happy doing a Kadapa stone and building it because he knows Kadapa stone very well. Carpenter knows wood, he wants to use wooden frames and he wants to stick marine ply on both sides. Now we have got new material and we don't have the skill set as to who exactly will be doing it. And same thing will happen with every multidisciplinary thing. There are lots of new materials and there is an interface. Now, who does the Cat5 cabling? Does the network guy come and do it or does the electrician does it? Now, when you got high technology fixtures, which you get in plumbing, whether the plumber do it or the electrician do it, there is a lot of disciplines which are now merging. So now we'll have to create a new set of people who can understand both and then start making it happen. So to me, it is not only about building in this mass building. It's at the last person should be able to have facility to be able to build. Like a person can order a window. In United States, you don't have window sizes from any size you want. There is always 4 feet by 4 feet. There's 6 feet by 6 feet or 8 feet by 8 feet. There's a certain amount of modularity. You design and you know your chair is coming like that. So why don't we make as industry, make that happen?
Good. Sonali, welcome. You're socially distant enough. You can take off your mask.
Not in the office.
Shoo everybody away. Say, I'm in a conference and I need to show my face. Welcome. You missed my interjections on indicting our fraternity.
I shall talk to you on the phone and listen to them all.
So I've been wanting to indict our industry, our fraternity, saying that we don't do enough and to give a wake-up call. Everybody's going to make a dartboard of me post this, I'm sure. But thanks for joining in. We were discussing has there been enough breakthrough innovation in the way we work? Gurjot says there is, in the sense that his emphasis as a project manager is that it's become easier today because of the internet and because of the softwares and everything to make things more understandable to the client. Abhishek has somebody who integrates from planning to design to construction, has his own take. Nilab is very vehement about, he's saying that no, he's been using appropriate technology, and to want the wish list doesn't end with just material, because you need appropriate applicators also. And Akshay's got his essentially take on Internet of Things and interiors and everything. What do you say? Have you worked with a new material in 30 plus years of your own practice? Are you still working with concrete, brick, cement, and glass?
You know, I think there are things happening for sure, but I do find it difficult.
You all read about it.
Sorry?
I said we just read about it. That's why I asked, have we been using?
No, I'll tell you what happens is that there are sometimes a lot of nice, interesting things, whether it is for architecture or interior. I must say in interior, it may be a little easier to start using newer things because the exposure is limited. In architecture, the ramifications of any material is far greater. So a lot more care has to be taken in first understanding it in terms of its performance, in terms of what it is able to do for you, how it is able to add value. So I feel that the integration of new technology or new materials in architecture is definitely something which is far slower. I'm not saying that it's not there, but it is far slower for various reasons. Cost being a big reason for people to accept a certain kind of expense. Now, whether even when you talk about BIM, it's been quite a struggle to have everybody, because when you want to use, you want to do BIM modeling, you have to have the entire team at par on that. So those kind of things, unless the scale of the project is large enough, it becomes difficult to adapt. But it's a fantastic thing because for a little extra expense, it takes care of a whole lot of, issues. Similarly, even in terms of materials and systems, it's not, I would say it can happen, it does happen, but not at the same pace that it happens in an interior.
I agree with you, but for something which has been an activity since the beginning of civilization, I think there are three things that we started as a human from the beginning of civilization, is to either learn to hunt or to eat, or to find something to cover ourselves with, and third is to find a shelter. So for an activity which is as old as civilization, we haven't innovated. And we really haven't innovated. That's what I feel. And we're still working with the same word
I'll
material.
tell you, Vivek, there is one thing in this, that what happens that when you want to innovate, there is a lot more work that you need to put in.
Right.
To, in terms of drawing, in terms of, research, in terms of case studies, whatever may be. Very often, I mean, I am not complaining, and I don't mean to sound like a offhand like that, but the fact of the matter remains that for a lot of projects, a lot of architects, the fees that they are getting, whether they are, bringing down the fees or whatever may be the reason, the fees do not actually give them the opportunity. And this is something which is really a downer for our profession. To do and give the right kind of time and inputs that, exploration of a new material or technology would demand, because it requires a lot of time and effort, which most people do not afford in a project. So it is just easy to just do the time-tested things and get on with it, which is very unfortunate. And I think this is one reason why probably things are not moving, because the architects themselves are not able to propose new things to the client. And
But do
of
you
course,
have it available to you in your palette? My question is it available to you in your palette? Is it a choice that you have? Do you, I mean, if I had a choice, I would definitely, my view is that I don't find enough alternatives, to structural work that I can do. I can still only build in, I wish I could build in carbon fiber. I wish instead of glass, there could be transparent aluminum, which is coming about. The issue of breakage of glass, the issue of transport of glass, all of that, if there was a transparent aluminum, we could. Why do we not think like that? My question is, why do we not think, and which I used the preface just now, I was talking about why don't we want to learn to fly? There was a human just 100 years back who thought a human can fly. And today, look at where we are all. So this is the Wright brothers of architecture, the Wright brothers of construction industry. Nilab, are you willing to stick your neck out and say,
Yes,
I want to be?
yes, 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 definitely. It's something which has always been in our minds, and since the time, in the sense that I personally am quite interested in building technologies, so it's been always been a dream that you live behind the earth with a new material, a new something which then the next generation can remember you by. That has always been the core dream of all of us, I think.
but I have to say one thing, that while we look at new materials, new technology, new whatever, it is extremely important to keep reminding ourselves that we are building on our planet, and we need to constantly evaluate the impact that anything has the moment we do go ahead with doing a development. And I think as a responsible professional, our consideration should be towards those techniques, those materials, which will help us uh, maintain the ecosystem and the integrity of this planet.
That itself, Sonali, that's what I said, that construction is the largest plunderer of natural resources. And if we take that as an issue, what are we doing? Are we doing enough? Are we really pushing for a recyclable material? I mean, just to put things in perspective, today, roads are being built with recycled plastic. And I think even National Highway Authority is looking at being able to build. And I think that'll be a great achievement, because world over, there are roads which are being built with recycled plastic. And in India generates huge amount of recyclable material, be it the construction debris. If you can pulverize that, use the same construct, it'll solve multiple issues. You and I get a new material to work with, which is actually compliant. The issue of debris, construction debris, which is really large, and there are issues of kind of deforesting areas and spoiling the ecology of places. That'll come into hand. That'll help. That'll be helped through all of this. Why, in our own line of work, do we not insist on that? It is cost effective, and it is going to help a larger thing. So where Gurjot has just gone off, I'm sure he's listening in, where we were talking about cost implication. We are looking at cost implication only for a building, but in the larger cost implication at a city level, at a council level, where the council is having to spend money for the upkeep of green areas, or for moving of debris, or recycling, or all of that. If you come back in and put that factor into the building, I think we will be saving money. So why don't we insist on developing techniques through Roorkee, whatever is that CBRI or whatever, to develop such materials, and we as architects start using them?
I think it is not only developing materials, it's also developing systems. Like, we have a huge problem with solid waste management also.
Right.
We have a problem where we don't have proper sanitation in all these unauthorized colonies or slum developments, or what maybe. There are really low cost, simple systems which people, smaller individuals have developed. Unfortunately, there is no repository of such information. There is no central body where this information can be tapped into by people, because these are simple systems,
Right.
low energy systems. And I think one would benefit a great deal if there was a way of getting these systems into areas which don't have sanitary. I mean, this is just one example I'm giving. There was somebody who had developed a water pump that was going to pull groundwater and transport it straight into an overhead tank, and it worked on a solar power. So I'm just saying that these are simple, small things. But where is the a repository of this information? It does not exist. It's just that if you come across these things, you know about it. But where do you actually find out?
So Akshay, I think to my mind that repository has to be the fraternity. That repository has to be the architects, because you don't need to refer to an encyclopedia to know what is going on in your field of work. It should be, if we are in line with what is happening in the industry, I think we should be able to do it. Rashmi, I think you seem restless. Is there something that we are overshooting besides time?
Yeah, because the thing is, my recording needs to be of exact 1 hour. So I absolutely don't want to edit anything out of this discussion. So hence I thought maybe I could, and like if I have to cut it, it will hurt my heart here right now.
No, but, please go ahead. Go ahead. We can go on and on.
I was just seeing, because there's absolutely, and you, Vivek, are an absolutely restless moderator. I realize that firsthand right now.
I thrive on people's thoughts. I have none of mine.
Honestly, this has been one of the best panel discussions we have, and so much so for, because each of the members came up from such different, this Gurjot was from project management, we had Abhishek from AECOM who handles engineering, construction, planning, design, all of it. We have Nilab and Sonali who come from core, architectural and we have Vivin Akshay who comes, specifically from corporate interiors and corporate structures with, a lot of domain, even in technology, like he mentioned. And each of y'all, Abhishek mentioned about the new technologies that they are working on with the hospital, or the 250 unit housing, or what Gurjot mentioned about the planning and coordination. Nilab mentioned about how, especially at the scale that these guys are working in, it's like massive. And Akshay himself mentioned about the softwares that they have developed, which no more puts control in the operator's hand, but to the employees themselves. And Vibhor is here. I'm going to hand it over to him to quickly conclude. But gentlemen, and Sonali, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. And I'm really sorry about this little.
No worries, no worries.
Thanks, Sonali, for joining me.
Yes. No, thanks.
Thanks, Vibhor.
Hi, Sonali. Such a pleasure to have you. And
my pleasure to be here.
Likewise. And I was saying it will be great to have you even towards the end to do full justice to the panel discussion. And thank you once again. And Rashmi, I completely echo the sentiments that you have, Vivek. Absolutely. Full hands to you. And audience would really appreciate the way our man really conducted and steered the whole discussion, making
it more
enriching, asking for more. But, audience, you've been very kind to us and very lovely there. So stay on with us for more discussion and more inputs to our lovely panel. Akshay, thanks a ton. Abhishek, it was great to hear from you. And gentlemen, I think Gurjot left, so I couldn't thank him personally, but thanks a ton. And I think this is one of the most, session that I devoured a lot. I mean, one of the most, there was a tussle going, have we done enough or are we going to do enough? And we were on crossroads and I loved every moment of it. I think who better than Vivek can do that. So thank you, my such a learned panel. Thanks a ton. Be safe, be healthy. And thanks to lovely audience out there. You'll get to see more of us on this on Architect Interiors India subsequent issue, doing full justice to the great content that we listened and we all loved it. Thank you once again from all of us here and my team on behalf of ITP India. Thanks.
Thanks, Vibhor. Thank you. Thank you for having us all here. Thank you, guys.